You were. I just actually saw you on the list when I was just looking. Oh. Okay. Well, I'm working through stuff, so I think I got it. Yeah, put the chair slides up. Perfect. All right. And Christian, on the extremely dark video, if that's still happening, I don't know what I can do about it.
It's fine now.
Oh, good. Thank you. I think the room lights were probably off between meetings. That might have been part of it. All right, let's go ahead and get started. This is the ACE meeting at IETF 124. The note well has been recently updated. Please make sure you understand everything about the note well before participating. You agreed to all of these words when you signed up for the meeting. So make sure you understand them and your implications before you speak up and make a contribution. Next slide. Let me see if I can, oh, there we go. In particular, please be respectful towards other participants and focus your discussion on the ideas and RFCs we're working on, and refrain from commenting on other people. If there are problems, please bring them to the chairs and we will have a discussion about how to resolve them. So please continue working together very well. I know we do have at least one agenda bash. Yeah, go ahead. Continue going to the agenda. Thank you. The one agenda bash is the EST OS core draft was not on here. There was a little bit of a discussion before the meeting about where exactly we should put it. We're going to put it right before number 6 and discuss the EST OS core right before we discuss the OS core profile. If that's okay with everyone, or if we have other agenda bashes or other comments on that, please feel free. Alicia?
That's fine with me. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Message from the co-chairs after agenda bash. I don't have a ton of chair topics. Logan, are you on? We will assume he doesn't have any chair comments either, which brings us up to and gets us well ahead of schedule. And now we're all awaiting the wonderful words of our security AD. Who has graciously agreed to put us another 5 minutes ahead of schedule. All right. So the next one is the pub sub profile. Thank you for sharing the deck. Are you going to assign the clicker?
doesn't work yet.
Actually, let me see if I might actually be able to do it. There you go.
Okay.
He beat me.
Oh.
I'm logged in now. I might be able to pick up from here.
Hi everyone, this is Marco. This is an update on the PubSub profile for ACE and for co-op specifically. It's version 1 now. Yeah, to recap, it's been a while. It's an application profile for group communication using ACE. So it's a profile building on RFC 9594. We had another application profile for totally different protocols, but this specifically considers a PubSub architecture in particular that developed in a draft in the core working group. So doing role mapping here, the ACE client is a publisher and/or subscriber node, and then we have two resource servers actually. One is the broker dispatching messages back and forth, and another one is the key distribution center defined in general in RFC 9594 and instantiated here. And that's why even though there is only one authorization server, there's two access tokens to be requested and obtained by the client. One is to get access to the broker for the sake of authorizing operations as to message publication and distribution. And the other one is aligned with RFC 9594 to access to the KDC to obtain key material to protect published data end-to-end between the publishers and the subscribers using COSI. Right, this is version 1 that does seem very little considered the work that has happened on this over the year, but if you remember, this document started longer ago, and in May we built on an agreement of narrowing its scope so that it covers only co-op as transfer protocol. So we abandoned the covering of MQTT in this document. So it's fully focused on co-op and that architecture defined in core now. That was version 0 already, actually, so we were pretty much almost done, but this version 1 does a number of additional minor things. And they are mainly the result of applying 80 comments on another document, on the other application profile of RFC 9594 that unsurprisingly made sense also when applied on this document. And that's the most of the things that we made when producing this version. So going through those other than minor fixes and updates, we revisited a bit the IANA consideration, also considering early comments from IANA on suggesting exact values for allocation of some code points. Since this document is now focused on co-op specifically, it made sense to mention also the word co-op in the defined TLS label. That still starts as expected with exported dash. And also building on comments we got on that other application profile again during the expert review for IANA, we also fixed the proposed new co-op content formats to be aligned with 3986 and the new almost published document in core to revise how to proceed with those. Right, there was an open issue about clarifying that in the particular cases where the access token is uploaded to the RS during a DTLS handshake with one version or another, the same actually applies for TLS just as well, which is a possibility in case that the TLS profile is used. Now it's mentioned explicitly. And thinking again of 80 comments received from that other document and applying here just as well, we made now a clear-cut distinction between two properties of nonces, being random or not, being minimally 8-byte long or not. So it's two different aspects now, and they're both recommended separately. Thank you very much, Paul. And another comment from Paul again that applies here just as well. We have two appendices listing requirements that are mandatory to fulfill or optional. And some of those, especially if not applicable, were not referred to in the document body. Well, now they are. It is not straightforward. It requires to build up some strange sentences sometimes, but now they are all referred from the document body. So the authors believe that all the content we wanted to have in this profile is in the document now. of course, there's an outstanding normative reference on the core document defining the co-op pub sub-architecture, and that document completed working group last call, and we hope that the new version addressing that can be released in the next few months. So that said, we believe that this document should be ready to consider for working group last call.
All right. Comments on this document, including whether it's ready?
Johan Selander from Ericsson. Yeah, I think this is ready. I read it and I followed the draft.
Okay. So yeah, we'll get the relevant stuff ready, and then we'll start a working group last call, hopefully within the next couple of weeks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Next set of slides. I need you to stop sharing, Paul. Oh, you're right. I've got to take it back from the clicker. Yep. Darn clicker. All right. Workflow and params.
Okay, and this is an update for the other draft updating the ACE framework and a few things around it, now in version 6. And this is the recap of things that this document covers, and this is already a reduced scope following the split out on the part on bidirectional access control that now lives on a totally separate document and is not here anymore. This started, and we had from the start the alternative SDC workflow where the AS uploads the access token to the RS on behalf of the client. That is convenient in some use cases, and we have a bunch of new parameters, mostly for the /token endpoint at the AS, and they are essential in the interest of being sure that this alternative workflow can be used in the first place, irrespective of the transfer profile of ACE, and also to facilitate a more agile transfer of authentication credential in support of group audiences or external trust anchors. And in that scope, we have also extended the semantics of the already existing ACE profile parameter. In this version of the draft, I'll come back to that later. We have also defined one more, I hope, final parameter, and is not for the token endpoint at the AS, it's for the outside info endpoint at the RS instead. And it's again in the interest of the alternative workflow and specifically for the dynamic update of access rights. Yeah, there's a few more additional relatively minor mechanisms, but also the definition of using the problem details format instead of the old handmade semantics for error messages. Okay, other than minor things, we revisited once again abbreviations in the CDDL model in the appendix. Those are just placeholders. They might well change again. And we might have covered all the core contents that we intended to cover here in terms of parameters and behavior, and that's why we also removed an editor's appendix with a proposed point to explore. Now they are basically all in the document body. Right. Last time in Madrid, I presented also the additional improvement, I hope, on the description of two parameters introduced further earlier, the to-RS and from-RS parameter. And essentially, they allow the client to provide the AS with information to relay on behalf of the client together with the access token when using the new workflow. And in the other direction, relaying information from the RS through the AS to the client on the way back when using this workflow again. Yeah, after the session, I got feedback from Dave Robin again, and thanks again, on a few clarifications around this topic on what exactly we should expect from the AS side to understand and support. We added text about that, including the explanation that, yeah, this sort of support is really expected from an AS running this for that profile. But if anything goes wrong in any sense, it's not the end of the world. That falls back to the original workflow with the client not even noting. So these clarifications are in the draft now in the section that defines these parameters. And what you see in the slide is just the unchanged example that we had already in July. Right, then we finally touched a bit more in detail the topic of dynamic update of access rights when using the new workflow, describing in section T1 the exact operations that are supposed to happen at the RS. And to support that in a secure and accurate way, we believe we also introduced a new parameters that I mentioned earlier for the outside info endpoint, updated rights that I'll show a bit more in detail in the next slide. Nothing of this should be really surprised, but we haven't really written it down yet before this version. And according to the use of this workflow, of course, every message between the AS and the RS is protected with a dedicated secure association. So even more the upload of an access token for this particular case of update of access right. If this is about the first access token of the series, so not a dynamic update of access right yet, well, it's still true that the message is protected, but this new parameter I mentioned is not included. And well, DRS is supposed to proceed really simply, just like it's receiving this from a client. No big deal. If it's an update of access rights, instead, well, there's a token tnew that is intended to replace the currently stored token told at the resource server. And here we want the token to be shipped to DRS together with this new updated rights parameter present only and solely in this case with Boolean value true. And this is intended to disambiguate strange things that can happen in case, for example, the DRS, for the sake of storage shortage, deletes some access token. And you truly believe that this tnew is starting a new series, but that's not the case. So DAS is the only one really knowing, and it's worth telling the DRS exactly what is going on. Honestly, we couldn't spot any true security vulnerability, but I prefer not to risk considering possible future profiles that can introduce who knows what more variants, and it would be better to be safe rather than sorry here, and it's pretty cheap, I think. And because of that, if the parameters come, but DRS cannot find an older token to replace in the same series, something's wrong here. Reply with an error, and again, you fall back seamlessly to the original workflow. Things will work out anyway. So that's the meaning of that parameter. Then, of course, we had to do some more homework and define in detail the semantics of that parameter, its registration, and so on. But it's used only in that very specific situation for that endpoint at the resource server. And if the AS is using the new workflow and uploading the access token to DRS, the message is protected. At the very least, it includes that parameter with the token. The parameter is there with value true. And again, it's in the interest of stating very clearly what is going on for the benefit of DRS and having a better and non-ambiguous error handling. Agenda considerations were, well, including the registration of that new parameter and also revisiting a few things that were not fully complete and accurate as to the registry auth parameters. Where you have a particular column on a parameter usage location. Of course, it has always had the usual suspect token request and token response since the beginning of auth, I think. A few other RFCs introduced client RS request or RS to client response. Now, because of this new parameter, we are entering yet another possibility that is very interesting, AS to RS request. Essentially, that's the actual location where that parameter can appear. So this just has no precedent, but I believe it's correct. That's the value that we should put there. And this slide is just summarizing the parameters that are affecting in a way or another for the sake of adding new locations where they can be used. But this AS, RS is very, very new, I think. They will ask for explanations, but it should be sound, I think. Yeah, I take the opportunity to remind that we have 7 open technical errata on the main ACE framework RFC 9200. I opened them at the beginning of the year. I think it's minor mistakes in some examples. And then in the IANA registration of the already existing ACE profile parameter that, as you see it in the IANA registry, is not aligned with what the specification says. So please have a look, anyone review this errata so that we can decide what to do with those. Especially example ones are really, really simple.
Yeah, thank you for bringing those to our attention. I will take a look at them and approve them.
I forgot myself. It just came up while updating this
Yeah,
document.
no, thank you very much. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Oops. We think the main features and parameters and intended updates are here already, but at the same time, I believe there is still some work to do. We need more examples on the particular use in data structures and exchange messages of some of the latest introduced parameters. And we still have an issue that I think Christian opened on providing better guidelines and clarifications on how specifically the anchor CNF parameter can be used in scenario with group audiences that can benefit the most of it, actually. So definitely we'll try to cover this in the next revision. And till then, please comment, review. You're very welcome. Thank you.
All right. Any comments or questions on that presentation?
Yes, that's me, of course. Dave Robin. I had a question about your new updated rights parameter, which in the previous draft said, maybe we should add this. And then you added like a ton of stuff for it. So the first comment is just editorial. In the upload token section is a whole lot of stuff about this new parameter. And then there's a whole section on that new parameter at the end. It makes the first section kind of noisy when you're really just talking about uploading tokens. So I would encourage some forward references down into the other section to keep the upload token section 2.1 clean and simple and not have a bunch of stuff about this, because the details are in two places. Anyway, that's editorial. My question was, you talked about the RS forgets that it has this, and down comes an update from the AS, and then the AS then the C gets rejected, I guess, next time it tries to get. No, who's rejected?
Well,
the RS is going to reject that from the AS, but then the next time the C tries to use that, he gets an error.
Yes, there's still nothing to update.
Okay, and then you said it starts all over again.
The client really has
to. So when the client goes to the AS,
yes.
That's a new series.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. The other question though is, what if the client forgets that he had it and goes to the AS? That also starts a new series.
Right.
And so that would then come down to the RS without that flag set.
Right. There's nothing to update for the client.
Right. There's nothing to update.
Yeah.
So every time the client goes to the AS, you're beginning a new series. Okay. That's what I wanted.
Thanks a lot.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Sounds like.
Thank you all.
That share slides request. I think I have do you want to share them or shall I? So I think EST score is next.
Yes, could you share them or?
Yeah.
Let me see. Okay, perfect. Could you pass me the slide control?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So, hi all, this is Militia. I'll be presenting the status of the EST score draft, which is now in version 09. So, as a recap, the draft has been in working group last call since 18th of September. We received 2 reviews since the beginning of the working group last call. So I would like to take the opportunity to thank Marco and Esko for providing these reviews. And my today's presentation is essentially covering these 2 reviews. Specifically, in terms of 09, we addressed Marco's review. And I will also take the opportunity to present the issues that Esko raised on 09. So first I will start with Marco's review. This was an extensive editorial review, and Marco believes that the document is ready. He provided 40 fixes, which we integrated in 09. One fix that I outlined here that we did not integrate is about normative language in section 3. And I would like to discuss here why we did not integrate it and ask for working group input for the two cases. So specifically, I cite here the text where Marco believes that the must should be uppercase in the third paragraph in section 3. So our response is that the specification already mandates the use of ad hoc in section 3. And we do not normatively restate the requirements that are met by ad hoc. So this was discussed already in the working group, and we are proposing to keep lowercase must in the third paragraph. Yes, is there any comment on that?
Yeah, the one comment I have is like, if we want to use lowercase must to mean we're restating a document, we're restating a requirement from another requirement, we should probably state that somewhere in the document, because that's not a standard 2119 thing to do. So I was wondering, does it anywhere in the document say that when must is lowercase, that it means that we're restating a requirement from another RFC?
I don't believe there is a sentence, though. I don't know if this addresses your comment, but the last sentence that is quoted here on third paragraph says these requirements are fulfilled when using ad hoc, which is a clarification in my mind to why we are not using uppercase must.
Yeah, I mean, that works in your head, but for zero readers, yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah, we should probably find some, we should probably either use must consistently in the RFC 2119 way, or we should explain why we've got this different convention that's using something, and I'm fine with either way.
Okay, so Marco is proposing to substitute must with has to. That works for me. And then we have Justin in the queue.
Yeah, Justin Richard, just from a 2119 standpoint, whatever the number is for the update of 2119 says that when it is lowercase, it does not mean normative, and it in fact has no special meaning. That said, avoiding using the word must in that and has to, needs to, something like that is usually a way to get the point across. You can also say it is required by another specification. If that's what you really mean by it, then just say that. But relying on there being specific semantics behind a this particular syntax it's gonna just continue to confuse people.
That's my objection as well, is we're using lowercase must in a way that's different from the way everybody else who reads 2119 is expecting. So yeah, it's fine if we want to do that, but we have to explain that this document uses must slightly differently, and we probably shouldn't do that.
I would contend that it's actually not fine if you do that because of, I think it's 8419.
You're actually probably right.
And yeah, so
all right,
I should not do that.
I agree we should not. So yeah, let's find another solution to having things. And in fact, actually, all caps must may actually make sense, and just put something like the sentence you have at the end. Just put it at the start and make it more clear, and say something like the requirements here come from ad hoc, and then it's clear.
Okay. All right, sounds good. So this is on the third paragraph, and I'm less clear, but I guess this also applies to the fourth paragraph, to the cited sentence, where the quoted sentence is the server, lowercase, must also provide relevant information to the CA to support its decision about issuing a certificate. So the context behind this sentence is that it's a background information that should be that is kind of a requirement. So I'm actually hesitating whether this should be an uppercase must in this case.
In my opinion, this actually looks like a poster child for one of the places where it makes sense to use a lowercase non-normative must. Attempting to read this as a requirement, as you correctly state, doesn't work very well, because what does, if it's a strict requirement, what does provide relevant information even mean, and what does support mean? Those
exactly.
are not things you can normatively talk about. And so,
yes. Okay, so what I hear essentially that both for third paragraph and fourth paragraph, we should get away from lowercase must and use a substitute. One is proposed in the chat by Marco, which I will try to apply. Does that sound good for everyone?
Getting a lot of thumbs up, so I think you're good.
Good. All right. So this was the only comment that is not addressed from Marco's review in 09. And with that, I skip ahead to ESCO's review, which came after the cutoff. So I will only be discussing the proposed resolutions. Yes, ESCO?
Hi, Esko Dijk here. Just a quick question on the previous sentence. I think it was about the server notifying the CA about issuing a certificate. Well, isn't it the CA that issues the certificate actually? Or do I misunderstand that?
Well, so that's why it's supporting the decision, right?
Yes. Does that read, is that confusing, the sentence as it's cited right now? Because in my mind, CA is issuing the certificate to support its decision about issuing a certificate. To me, it's clear, but I'm happy to be proven wrong.
Yeah, what are you reading that's causing you pause?
Yeah, okay. I think the server relates to its decision about issuing a certificate. So what I read was that the server made a decision and did issue a certificate. It refers to the server, basically. That's what I read. Yeah. So I think it needs to be more clear then.
Okay, we can make it explicit and to support the CA decision about issuing a certificate.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Esko. So with that, I will go ahead with two issues that were raised during Esko's review. So first of all, I would like to thank Esko for re-reviewing this draft. He did it first in 05 and then now during working group last call. So thank you, Esko. The first issue is tracked in GitHub under issue ID is 112. And it is pretty straightforward to address. There is essentially an error in the syntax of the example about the usage of the double quotes in the request and in the response. So we simply propose to adopt this the text suggested by Esko. I don't think this is controversial, so I will move on with the next slide. Which is about a bag of certificates. So essentially a response to the CRTS endpoint. So currently this endpoint is defined in EST and it's brought over by EST COAPS and it applies to EST OSCORE. And the response to the GET on CRTS operation certs is essentially a bag of certificates, which is subsequently installed in the TA database, resulting in explicit TAs. So now the question that Esko correctly brought up is the use of the term bag here. And bag refers to a sequence of unordered certificates, which are which is not very optimal for constrained environments. So Esko is asking, is it always a bag, and whether it can be a single certificate. So when I looked this up a little bit further, specifically in the context of the COSI C509 draft, it turns out that the response can be a single certificate, as you can see what is defined as the structure COSI C509. So it can be either a single certificate or a chain of certificates, but there is a question about bag, and we need to clarify this in the text. And specifically, we propose to clarify this text in 4.2.1 in order to get away from the term bag and be compliant with the text in COSI C509 draft. So I see Joran stepping up.
Yeah, sorry, forgot to put myself in the queue. Can I take this? Okay, Joran Selander. So I think this remnant from EST of responding with a bag is probably not the right thing to do in an IoT setting. So we should typically use chain or single certificates. So I think we should take away the bag. But I'm happy with this response and this way of clarifying it. We just refer to C509, COSI C509. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Göran. So Eskor?
Yeah, I'll join in. So I think that depends if you want to basically mimic what the original EST co-op S also has. So I don't remember what that one defines. So I think it's also maybe a bag that it allows or not. But it does allow you to have either one certificate, like in this format 287, or to have multiple. And that's basically the, yeah, which format did we use again there?
So it's two. I'm looking it up. So the response
format for multiple certificates, and it's probably the PKCS one, I'm guessing.
So the response to certs is either 281 or 287, which is a single certificate or I guess a bag of certificates. But I would need to double check. Yes.
Yeah, so 281, that I think was it the PKCS 7 format, something like that, I think.
Let me double check before
I don't think that was specifically ordered necessarily. So it's just like a collection.
Yeah, a lot of times, I don't know this one specifically, but usually when you have a list of certificates in PKCS7, people just concatenate them. And yeah, so it's just a list.
Yeah, so it's this collection. And now with going to the C509 format, I think you can have the choice of either do a bag or chain. So if you want to keep close to the, let's say, the originals, then you would need to allow a bag. But if you want to say, well, we want to optimize things for constraints, then maybe a chain would make sense indeed. Yeah. So something to consider.
So what I would propose then is that we keep for ASN1 there encoding, we keep the original semantics as it is defined in EST co-op S, but for CBOR encoding we move away to chains, which are optimal in terms of constrained devices. Does that work for everyone? I think I heard that's okay.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And with that, so our next steps are to publish version 10 with these proposed changes that we just discussed. And then I guess I'll leave it up to the chairs whether they want to ship the document outside of the working group.
Yeah, if we don't receive any other reviews and we're past the deadline for reviews, although if somebody notices something important, we've got working in the loop last call open, so I'm not going to reject a good set of comments just because they're late. But yes, as soon as ESCO's changes are done with the 10, and ESCO is happy with that, that means that all comments have been addressed in the working group last call, and we will do the Shepherd's write-up and ship. So if you get 10 up quickly, we'll probably have this moving out the door to ISG within a couple of weeks.
Perfect. All right. Thank you. That would be my last slide.
Okay. So now we have the OS Core profile slides.
Yes. Let me share the slides.
Now let's make sure I got the right one of these because there are two of them.
Yeah, the revised one. It says revised at the end. Yes. Thank you. All right. So I will start. And yes, hello everyone. My name is Rickard Höglund, and I will present some updates on the EDOC and OSCORE ACE profile. So just to recap what this is about, I mean, it's a profile of ACE that uses EDOC for key establishment and also uploading the access token in an ED item. And then you transition to using OSCORE for secure communication. And as you can see here in the illustration, you have the access token as part of Eddoc message 3. And in this illustration, we're also using the optimized workflow where we're actually combining the first OSCOR protected request with the third Eddoc message. So you get a very efficient message count, shall we say. And to go into some of the main updates we did for version 9, the first thing we did is that we're now taking advantage of what is being defined in the core URI path abref document, which introduces an option that allows expressing well-known paths in a very compact way. You can see the option there, and basically using that option to express the path instead of the normal URI path option. So for our draft, we now mandate support of this new co-op option and also the code point that abbreviates well-known Eddoc, because that's the relevant resource in our case. So an RS using this profile must support both of those. Further updates we did is we expanded a bit on introducing a way to transport ACE request creation hits in ED items. And what is the motivation for doing this? Well, it's because the client might not be able to determine in advance which AS to contact when it wants to, before contacting a particular resource server. So how can this be solved? Well, the RS can actually convey this information in an EED item in Eddoc message 2 or Eddoc message 3. So now we have a narrated example of using this EED item combined actually with another EED item, which is the credential by value EED item. So combining these two, you can have an alternative workflow where you actually get the information about which AS to contact from the RS. And I will continue on this point with a more detailed example. So basically the way the interaction would happen is that the client sends Eddoc message 1 to the RS, including in ED1 both the credential by value ED item and the request creation hints ED item, both with empty value, to signal to the RS that I would like this information. Now the RS replies with Eddoc message 2, including in ED2 the request creation hints ED item, actually containing the request creation hints, specifically the URI of the AS to contact. And because of the credential by value, the RS makes sure to include this credential by value during the execution of Eddoc, because it's not certain that the client has this credential already. One thing to note, though, is that since the RS doesn't know yet what resources the client is interested in accessing, the information in the request creation hints would typically not include audience and scope, because the RS cannot determine that yet, but it can point the client to the correct authorization server to use. Following that, the client will request an access token for the right audience and scope from the right AS, based on both pre-configured information on the client and the information provided from the RS in the request creation hints ED item. Following that, the client sends a message 3 to the RS, now uploading the access token here in ED3. And well, after that, a normal communication with OSCOR can proceed as intended by this profile. As point number 5, you can note that if the request from the client for accessing a resource is not authorized per the access token, the RS can respond with an error message. And in this case, since the RS knows what resources being targeted, it can actually provide information also, including audience and scope. So this has now been elaborated in the draft, this kind of workflow or message flow. Another thing we did is we added some examples. So basically this draft is introducing 4 new ED items, and 1 ED item for actually uploading the access token, 1 to identify an Eddoc session, and then we have the credential by value to signal to the other pair that you want credentials by value when Eddoc is executed. And finally, you have the request creation hints ED item, again, for holding the request creation hints, typically the URI of the AS. And well, I don't have to read you the examples, but basically we now have bytes, CBOR encoded examples of some data, how this could look in practice, basically. Yeah, continuing on, we also did one more update, which is that if you read the DTLS profile of ACE, you actually see that in RPK mode, it admits a particular type of behavior, which is that the AS can actually select a different public credential of the client than the one the client included in the access token request. And then the AS actually proceeds to include this different credential in the CNF claim of the access token and also in the CNF parameter in the access token response. Now, in this draft for this profile, we wish to forbid this behavior. So basically, we've now defined it that the CNF parameter is explicitly forbidden in the access token response, and the authentication credential specified by the AS in the CNF claim must be exactly the one that the client specified in the rec CNF parameter of the post request to the token endpoint. So essentially negating that behavior that the TLS profile allows. More than that, we did some editorial and procedural fixes, textual improvements, and we also now provide a link to the GitHub repo from the data tracker entry for convenience. So some select next steps that we want to do is we want to extend this example of the request creation hints usage of that ED item with a, now we have textual description, but it would be nice to also have like a message flow kind of figure. We also want to request some early allocation of certain code points for ACE profiles for CWT claims and also CWT confirmation methods. We want to elaborate a bit on situations where the RS supports multiple cipher suits and methods, ad hoc cipher suits and methods. I mean, in this case, because the cipher suits use different algorithms and the methods also use signing or diffie-Hellman, we need to have, the RS needs to have multiple authentication credentials, each to be used with a different combination of suit and method. And the question is, how can this be handled in a nice way? One possibility there is to use a different audience to kind of indicate which credential is appropriate for the RS to use in a certain situation. Yeah, lastly, we want to elaborate a bit more on the privacy and security implications of including the access token in ED2, 3, or 4, because the example I showed in the beginning, that's the forward message flow of ad hoc. And in that case, you have the token in ED3, but we also support the reverse message flow. And depending on which you choose and where you put the access token, there are certain implications when it comes to privacy, and that we want to elaborate on. So yeah, that's what I had. Thank you all for listening.
All right. Any comments and questions on that one?
Kirsten Ambus, one immediate on the flexibility around cipher suites. I think having different audiences will complicate things on the device because then it kind of has tracked different names and they are really like, and ACE is already set on doing them in a string structure. I think we could make easier progress if we describe a bit higher level information, like what cipher suites are available and what keys are available, and then infer things such as which method is supported. Because if you know what the key is and what the cipher suite is selected, then which mode is supported kind of follows from that, and rather use that than spelling out the modes, which, as by my review mail, is not covering all the situations well anyway.
Right. Yeah, I know you sent that review, and thank you very much for that, by the way. Yes, your point is, I mean, I suppose in a sense you would know what the RS supports. I mean, you could support multiple suits in multiple methods. But your point is that can, like, basically, like, there are alternatives to using the audience to do this in a more convenient way. That's if I understand correct. But this is something we want to explore, and any feedback on, yeah, please. Anyway, any feedback on the best way to do this is appreciated. Yeah.
All right. Other comments? there are no other comments, thank you. Oh, are you hopping in with the last comment?
Yeah. So, if you want to take one or 2 points from the mail I sent, if there's time for that.
Yep.
So one is please, you already mentioned early allocations. Please also early allocate EAD labels. Like they are starting to get into software, and it would be kind of complicated to change them later.
Absolutely, yeah. That's good feedback.
And the other is like distilling a few of the items in the list mail to a more high level. There are many points in this document where it allows some flexibility in how things are done precisely, or in things that can be negotiated. Now,
Mhm.
flexibility in general is nothing bad, but in many cases, I think it would be helpful to have concrete examples of why this flexibility is warranted in the first place. So, for example, why it makes sense to have session IDs that could be reused for a single client depending on the audience. Because right now this is creating a lot of variability in what could or could not be implemented, and that might be problematic for interoperability. And slimming things down when there is no concrete use case might be a good idea, especially given those are like open registries. And if the need really comes up for a concrete thing, someone can register that later.
Right.
And
Yeah, just
that their implementers the hassle of like implementing each and every of those just because they are on the RFC.
Yeah, I mean, I was checking your review, and the point about the session ID, that there could be room for simplification there to make it more unique, shall we say, and not shared in that manner. As far as your other points about registries, typically the reason we did things like this is because we looked at the ad hoc RFC and what is shown there as examples of an application profiles. So either in Appendix F with the application profile example, or the actual main section about the application profiles. That's why we have, for instance, the identity of the endpoint, or the point about the content format. So typically we took inspiration from that, of course. That's why we have it. But sure, it's a good point. Maybe there's still room for slimming things down, unless we have a concrete use case.
Yeah, in particular, back when the ad hoc RFC was written, we did not have a lot of experience with like how would this be used. I think this experience is growing now, but just taking everything we thought back then that could be an option to include might not be so helpful to the readers compared to using the information that using the experience that we've gathered and writing down the things that actually matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, thank you for your review. We'll definitely check that in more detail.
Christian, thanks a lot for your comments. I just skimmed quickly through them. I have to think more of that. On the point on the session ID, the rationale was just to try to not consume them too fast for the same as most efficient way as possible. You gave 2 options to consider. I think the last one should work. So mandating the audience specified in the access token request, if I got your proposal correctly. And on the point of early allocation, yes, especially for the AD labels, not necessarily. We may have more things that are eligible for early allocation. But even for that one alone already, then we need at the very least to produce quickly a new version of the document where those code points are put in the IANA considerations. Because right now, those values like the 15 for the AD label, they are in an example of the section explaining the item. So if we want to bring this on formally to IANA and so on, they want to see the number in the IANA consideration.
Alrighty, any last comments? Otherwise, we're running out of time, and I'll give a brief wrap up. All right, thank you. All right, so I just want to make sure that I have the right list of to-dos. So I have on PubSub profile, we're going to get the we think we're ready for working group last call on that one. On OS Core, the working group last call is ongoing. We're going to get another update with ESCO's comments resolved. And if everybody's happy with that, then that will get shipped off to IESG. On workflow and parameters, I need to review the errata from RFC 9200 and probably approve those. And then there's a note from chat that the must discussion, I need to go back and review and make sure that the final conclusion on capitalized must versus lowercase must is minuted correctly in the minutes. So any action items I forgot? All right. In that case, thanks everyone. And we're done for IETF 124.
Yeah.